So here's what I would like to hear from some of you who were here this morning. Talk to me about what you got from the speakers. A couple of tidbits, a couple of nuggets, something that you got from the speakers this morning. Maybe it was Riel, maybe it was Kathleen, maybe it was Jen Sheehan, maybe it was Craig Duswald. So get to a mic, stand up, and talk to me, because what you are going to share with me will obviously help others. So get to a mic. Thank you. What's your name? Susan. Can we get that mic hot?
Hello, hello, hello.
There we go.
I should break out in a song.
I know, right?
So if you were playing that, fireworks song, I could have.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay, from Rial, I wrote down prizes and status motivates people.
Say it again.
There are some little tidbits. I got the big tidbits, but these were the ones that I need to leave with. These are like my action steps. So I was thinking about doing prizes and status. So when he said just quickly that motivates customers, I took note. I never knew what an autoresponder was. I was always
one of those.
I was one of those frustrated people like, well, they just asked me that. Why did they send me that again? So now I know to look into that.
Yeah. But better question is, do you know a provider?
No, I have to totally start from zero. I'll be Googling autoresponder unless I hear it from here later.
No, you don't have to. All right, so you ready?
Uh-huh. Wait, no, I'm not that ready.
You need a pen. Need a pen. So autoresponder. An autoresponder is built into most of the email marketing systems. Go back to the mic. You're fine. Oh, okay. So Aweber, which is AWEBER.com, is a very popular one. But the one that I'm going to recommend most is Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft is here.
Yay!
And they are one of our sponsors. And Infusionsoft is outstanding. They really will take everything soup to nuts from the moment you make contact with someone all the way through getting them into your database and contacting them. How many of you got an email from me around 9:45 this morning talking about J. Conrad Levinson? Okay, how on earth can I sit here? I was on stage at that point, right? How on earth can I be up here and send you an email at the same time? Because I'm not sitting there typing, right? That's what an autoresponder is. It's something that's set up, built in, to go out at a specific time. So someone can come in and opt into your database. Like Craig said, 2 days later, they can get a, hey, thanks for XYZ. What did you think of it? And it just starts building that relationship. And one of the nice things about having Mike here is that Mike is the king of building relationships. I mean, we're going to obviously talk about that, but we've got a living legend with us. I mean, you saw the hands go up. People know ACT. And that really started a movement which a lot of people take for granted today, but it really didn't exist before Mike helped people understand how to do that.
when it first came out.
Right. What else is on your list?
Oh, well, I don't want to take
one more.
There. Let's see. Well, I learned a lot about well, there are a couple things, but let's see. What's another good one?
And name who you learned it from.
Oh, all right. So if I go to Craig, I thought it was interesting. He said have something that they have to opt in for and get, like some kind of gift or promotion or whatever, so that you get them in the database. Yeah.
So just tying some things together here, what Jen Sheehan spoke about, and she kind of, I'm not saying glossed over it, but if you didn't catch it, it's called the funnel. And so the idea of the funnel is literally just like a funnel. You want to get as many people into your database as you possibly can. That is step one. And the best way to do that is with something that is free. If you go to journeytoyou.com, you can get a free copy of my book. I give the whole book away at journeytoyou.com. Why do I do that? You have the microphone. Why do I do that?
Oh, because now once I do that and get it, then you'll have my name.
And
I'll be in your funnel.
Absolutely. And it's because, it's like, man, if he's giving that away for free, how good is his stuff that he's actually selling? And so that's kind of the idea, is you want to give your best stuff away.
I see.
I know that's counterintuitive, but that's a lot of what this is about. All right, let's step over here. Takeaways?
Yeah, I'll take it away. I'm
All
Pat
right.
Mishu, founder of WealthyWomenLeaders.com. If Mike's the king of relationships, I'm the queen of networking.
There we go.
So I just want to say a big thank you first for a phenomenal morning, because that alone was worth the trip, and not to take away from what's coming. I'm excited about that. Here's what I learned. So from Riel, the comment about using QR codes throughout a book. Never knew that. We'll be doing that. From Craig, let's see, Craig, so much from Craig. Actually, I was watching his technique as a presenter, because I'm a speaker. And so I learned a lot about his techniques, especially the use of the music, the energy, the visuals, the seeding throughout his presentation.
Sure.
Very well done. And from Kathleen, what was helpful to me was her formula that she laid out step by step. This little thing at this price, so much per month, blah, 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 and how to, and some great titles. And so the breaking it down part from Kathleen. And from Jennifer, well, so much to learn about Facebook.
Give us one.
One was the pin and highlight. That was the key for me. So pin a link to a sales link, like up in the right-hand corner. I got to go play with it and do it, but I'm going to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. And one more, please.
Yeah. I'm Brian Montgomery from Louisville, Colorado. And I think Craig had something that summarized what I felt everybody was bringing to the table. And the one statement he had up there was, always do your best just in case someone is watching.
Great.
And that resonates with me because it's at a high integrity level, and no matter what I'm doing, it's got to be there, otherwise I'm not doing it. So I really love to hear that at this level of presentation.
Yeah, did everybody get that? That to me was also a great nugget from Craig. Say it one more time.
Yeah. Which is always do your best just in case someone is watching.
Yeah.
Because they are.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mike. And is it Muhney or Muhney? I just kill it. Muhney. It is Muhney. All right, I got it right. That's second, third, fourth, fifth time. And Mike is the CEO and co-founder of VIPorbit. And VIPorbit takes customer relationship management, really mobile contact management to the next level. And is initially designed for was it the iPad and the iPhone? Right. Just out of curiosity, anybody ever heard of VIPorbit? Okay, we got one in the back. Okay, good. Well, that's part of what Mike is obviously doing, is he's an entrepreneur. So he's got a new product, built it, starting to market it, get the word out. Mike is perhaps best known for what he did decades ago, which is in creating the customer relationship management industry through ACT, which is one of the most powerful pieces of software ever developed. And if you know, if you've been in business for at least a decade or more, you probably used ACT at some point. And if you didn't, you knew someone who did. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mike, and let's give him a big round of applause, get some music going, and let's get something going for Mike here.
Steve, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I can tell you can. Question, guys. It shows 49 minutes left. Do I get an hour or do I get 49 minutes?
Now you're good. Take your time.
I'm good? Okay, just making sure. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for selecting to hear me speak. I know there's another session that you could have gone to, so I appreciate your time and interest. I actually submitted to Steve a different presentation than what I think I may end up showing you. So it's my plan B, but my plan B occurred because after talking with a number of people last night at the cocktail event and this morning, and Joy is one of them, for example, we really got to talking about something that is universal, has nothing to do with technology, something that whether you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur want to be, or whatever it is you're doing, applies because it is universal. You know, I appreciate that people call me an expert pioneer in relationship management. I suppose I am. What I really am, though, to myself is I'm a lifelong student of the dynamics of relationships and not only creating more of them, but creating more effective relationships more efficiently and permanently and meaningfully, right? because that's what business is all about. I like to tell people that meaningful business is the result of meaningful relationships. What are you doing to improve and expand and enhance those? That's what I've been a student of in my career. So let me tell you just a little bit about me. I always think it's good for you to know, who am I? Why do I think the way I do? Where did I come from? First of all, I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've lived there since 1983, but I'm a Chicago homeboy. I was born and raised here in Hyde Park. When I was 10, my parents moved out to the south suburbs, so I'm a Southie, but I'm a Cubs fan, which is important. My mom is a Cubs fan. My dad's a diehard Sox fan. But I'm a diehard Cubbies fan. Actually had the privilege at one point to have just me and him, Ernie Banks himself, cheeseburger and fries, a private lunch with him a number of years back. It was really a delight to sit with one of my childhood idols. So I went to Brother Rice High School. I went to University of Illinois in Champaign and graduated from there. So I am a proud Chicagoan. I love this city. But I cannot stomach the winters anymore. So that's why I'm staying in Dallas-Fort Worth, because I can play golf in January. Can't do that here, typically anyway. I started my career, I'm telling you this because I was taught this, and I was taught this by my first employer when I graduated, called IBM, in the mainframe era before there was a PC industry. I started my career at 1 IBM Plaza right next to Marina Towers, on Wacker Drive in downtown Chicago, and for 6 months, imagine this, for 6 months I was in training to be just a sales guy, but it's the IBM way back in that glamorous era, and I didn't realize it at the time, but what I did apply from what they taught me in that 6 months, I used 12 years later to design ACT, the software product that basically is my credential, and that literally did, which is a true statement, as Steve said, we created a new category of software called contact management, software designed for people who deal with people. Who doesn't deal with people? It's not just salespeople. I mean, CPAs, lawyers, doctors, photographers, consultants. I don't care what you do, don't you deal with people? So it comes back down to this issue of meaningful business stems from meaningful relationships. All right. What IBM taught me as I retrospectively look back upon beginning my career with them was not how to sell, but how to deal with more people more effectively so that I could sell better, so that I could succeed better. And that's where that was the epiphany, if you will, of the beginning of my awareness of the importance of relationships in the business world, but personal as well. And I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to launch off into more of the presentation. So people sometimes ask me, well, how did you come up with the idea for ACT? And, why was that so important to you, et cetera, et cetera? Going back to this one anecdotal story I'll tell you from my IBM career. So back then, and it has nothing to do with Facebook, because Facebook obviously didn't exist back then. This is the mid-'70s. IBM taught us as salespeople the concept called what's on the walls. Now, imagine the era, the older people in the room, of which I'm now one of them, remember when we once had to go cold calling physically on businesses, right? And you'd walk into a company and you'd see magazines on the coffee table or pictures on the wall of the executive, etc. And all of those were indicators of what the real passions and interests were of those individuals and perhaps even the culture of the company, right? So, for example, if I walked into a CEO's office and IBM taught us to call at the very top. If you got delegated down, that's okay, because those people will listen to the CEO. So always call at the top. Anyway, which is an interesting thing when you're in your early 20s to call on CEOs of big corporations like, Sears and blah, 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 right? But that's what they taught us. So you would notice maybe the person had pictures of his golfing buddies, and there might be a celebrity that was one of them, or their boat, whatever. Those are indicators of what their real passions were about. So you'd say, well, hey, I see you have a picture of you and the boat on the wall. Do you ever take it? Where do you take it? Oh, just around Lake Michigan. Or one time I even took it down the Mississippi to the Gulf. Well, hey, that's cool. Tell me. You get people to open up. You get people to begin this process of liking you. And the likability factor in business applies to everybody, not just salespeople. And we're going to get to that topic throughout my presentation here. So it was a what's on the walls concept. So I applied that throughout my entire career, but most people don't comment on that. You know, you ask them a question and they answer it. Except one guy did comment on that type of an approach I took. So it was a Friday afternoon. I was driving in my territory. I had a prospecting territory. At one time, I had downtown Chicago as my territory. I was with IBM for 5 years. I had a great career with them. But then I had an open territory all the way over to South Bend, Indiana, to the Illinois border, and about 50 miles north of Indianapolis. So I had a big open territory. And I was a prospecting sales guy, which meant I could only call on companies that did not have an IBM system. Friday afternoon, I'm driving home, and I'm driving by this huge building about the size of a Home Depot to give you some sense of scale today, right? And I thought, well, certainly, and my IBM printout that they gave me told me that they did not have anything IBM, so they were a prospect for me. So I did my IBM thing. I went in and introduced myself to the executive assistant, asked her name, very important, right? Hi, I'm Mike, your IBM salesman. Oh, I didn't know I had an IBM salesman. Yeah, I'm it, right? But I'm your IBM salesman. I know I'm here unannounced. Do you mind if I introduce myself to the CEO of the company and see if I could, you know, get an appointment with them, blah, blah, blah. A very nice lady, very handsomely dressed lady. And she said, well, do you have a card? Yeah, she took it into him. He came out very in a suit and tie kind of a guy, very handsome man. He was probably in his late 40s, early 50s, so to me he was an old guy back then. But he was very professional. And he, you know, I said, hi, I'm Mike Muhney, your IBM salesman. Well, hi, Mike, you know, blah, blah. And I said, I forget his last name, but I said, you know, hi, Mr. Smith. I know I'm here unannounced. Is it possible that we could set up an appointment so I could tell you blah, blah, blah? I said what, you know, IBM taught me to say, and this is what he said. He said, Mike, I would love to talk to you right now, but I'm literally getting ready to go on a 2-week skiing vacation in Colorado with my family. Feel free to call me in 2 weeks when I get back. Oh, great. You know, have a good time. Well, this is the daytimer era. Anybody remember the daytimers? Yeah, well, it's a paper system, right? It's my organizer. So I went out to my car, and I remember writing down 2 things 3 weeks later. I thought I'd give him a week to get back and catch up and blah, blah, blah. I wrote down the executive assistant's name, so when I called, I could address her, typically it was a her, by name, rather than treating her like she was unimportant. No, they're very important, right? And I wrote down, ask him how his skiing vacation went. Okay, innocent enough, right? 3 weeks later, I call him. Hi, Mr. Smith. I got through to the executive assistant first. I finally got to Mr. Smith. Hi, Mr. Smith. This is Mike Muhney from IBM. Oh, hi, Mike. How you doing? Mr. Smith, how was your skiing vacation? A couple what seemed like moments of silence, and this is what he said to the best of my remembrance, but it's still pretty indelible. He said, you know, you're probably a pretty smart guy working for IBM, and you probably can safely assume that your competitors, for some reason, have started calling on me too, which they have, and they did before I went on my vacation, and they knew I was going on a vacation, and they have all contacted me since I've been back from my vacation. You're the last. Oh, man, I'm the last one. And he said, but do you know you're the only one that asked me about my skiing vacation? Okay, and this is what he said. What that tells me is I was important enough to you to remember that, something that was of interest to me. That means you're a professional. I do not like to deal with amateurs. And you listened to me. You showed you cared about me. So yes, let's have that appointment. And I ended up selling him an IBM solution. And we're talking about expensive solutions in the mainframe era, right? Now, I will admit I might have sold it anyway, having done the dance that I would have done as an IBM sales guy. That's not the point of this whole story. The point is it was an epiphany for me that I applied later in the design and the creation of ACT, and what I'm doing now with VIPorbit for iPhone and iPad users, and more to come. But it taught me that it helped distinguish me from competition. We all have competition. Every one of you in the room here has competition, whether you realize it or not. And today, in fact, much of our competition is faceless, because the internet world, it's an open, competitive environment. All right, how do you distinguish yourself from your competition? That's what it's all about, because we have choices. As buyers, which we all are, we have choices. So how do I go the extra mile? I say that there's no traffic jam on the extra mile. How are you getting there? All right? So, that's just a little bit of my background. IBM taught me, by the way, to never violate this sequence when you first begin a relationship. Say something about yourself first. Who am I? Who's Mike Muhney? Your company second, and your product or solution third, and never violate that sequence. Why? Well, of course I could assume that people learned about and knew about IBM, but they didn't know anything about me, and I represented IBM, and it's all about establishing trust and that likability factor that I told you about. So it's very important to give a sense of who you are. It helps distinguish you. I didn't casually tell you that I'm a Chicago homeboy. I didn't casually tell you that I like the Cubs. I told you that because I want you to get a sense of the real Mike Muhney, not the guy that's here to sell something. That's who I am. It's one of my passions. It's one of my interests. It's an effort on my part to create a link with you, okay? That's why I did that. Something about me, to give me and you, more importantly, a groundwork, if you will, a foundation from which you know, why is he saying what he's saying? Why does he feel the way he feels? Why is his opinion what it is? Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about ACT. So two guys, I'm one of the two guys, so two parents, invented ACT. We didn't intend to become software entrepreneurs. We were looking as two sales guys to find something in this brand new thing called the PC to help us in our sales jobs. It didn't exist. Now, a lot of life and what you may be facing, because I noticed half the room this morning raised their hands when they said, when somebody asked how many people are entrepreneurs or entrepreneur wannabes here, about half the room raised their hand. How many people in here are entrepreneurs or entrepreneur wannabes? I say that respectfully. I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, a good portion of you. Well, one of your biggest challenges as an entrepreneur is understanding selling, because you are and will always be the #1 salesperson in your company, whether you realize it or not, because you will always be selling. Okay, so back to ACT. So we were looking for something, it didn't exist, and we thought, well, we just kind of recognized an opportunity. And being an entrepreneur, or anything in business, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is recognizing a moment of opportunity that may not come again, right? We recognized, well, we could have just said, oh, it doesn't exist, so life goes on. No, we were two guys that said, doesn't exist. We kind of knew what we were hoping it would do if it existed. It doesn't, so I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur or a software guy, but what the heck? And that's how basically ACT began, believe it or not. As funny as that sounds, need was the mother of invention. And that qualified us as experts, because we then designed it for ourselves, because we knew what we were looking for, and we figured, well, there must be some other people that want it too, but we didn't go into it thinking, we're going to create this business, and this is what it's going to mean. No. We have a product, we have an idea, we get the fun of working together. You know, one of the speakers this morning said he'd rather work for himself, I think it was Jeff, he'd rather work for himself than a big corporate, person, entity, right, for all the obvious reasons. I agree with that. So that's how ACT was created. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it literally created the category, contact management, and today it still exists. It just celebrated its 25th year anniversary on the market. Name a software product that's been on the market 25 years. There aren't many, okay? Well, thank you. I'm just a sales guy. I'm just a sales guy. I'm a regular guy. I tell people I put my pants on the same way you all do in the morning, and I have to stand in front of the toilet like everybody else does, right? So, I'm not a hyper genius. I didn't go to Harvard or Yale. I'm just a regular guy who saw an opportunity, had some common sense and determination, and I went for it. I took that risk, to another speaker's comment this morning. ACT today has had over 10 million people in the world purchase it and benefit from it. I don't know how many people have stolen it, but 10 million people have at least bought it over the years. And it is attributed with creating today's CRM industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry. So I do a lot of speaking around the world on the topic of relationship management. And so that's who I am. So you know a little bit about me personally, a little bit about my business credential and why I feel why I do, and why I'm so passionate about helping you develop more effective relationships. And that's my Plan B presentation. But I have to ask your permission if it's okay to do my Plan B presentation as opposed to the Plan A that some of you might have come here to hear that's entitled, you know, apps and all about creating apps. Happy to do that if that's what you want, but to me that's kind of boring, even though that's what I do. Because I create apps that facilitate, or applications, act as an app, I facilitate the purpose of relationships. That's what I'm all about. I do have a breakout session on Sunday at 4:20, which is about apps, and so if you do want to hear about apps, you can come to the breakout session if you're still here. So is it okay to proceed with Plan B? Yes. All right. By the way, I really love interactiveness. I do not ever like to be up here speaking to you. I like us to speak together, each other. So feel free, and I genuinely mean this, feel free to interrupt me. I'm going to open it up to Q&A as well, but I want this to be an interactive session, okay? I hate PowerPoint. I hate it with a passion. I always have and I always will. So I don't like to use text. I use pictures, because pictures tell a story. Life is about a story, right? I gave you a story about the guy that I asked how his skiing vacation went that changed my life and set me on a course that I never anticipated would occur, right? All right, so for the first time ever, I'm using my iPhone as a remote device for my iPad. I trust everything will work out fine here. Just bear with me. It says it's linking to Keynote. No connection available. It worked before you all came. I don't have time to set it up, so I'm just going to go. I'll just swipe on the screen. It's just that easier. Okay. I want to start with this because whether it's business, and it certainly applies in business, but it most definitely applies business and personal, your personal life. A saying from a poet from the early 1800s who most of us probably have never heard of, but his name was John Greenleaf Whittier. And John Greenleaf Whittier came up with this saying, of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, what might have been. Man, I don't know about you, but when I first saw that as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as just, you know, a human being, it was like, wow, think of all the times in my life when I could have gone in that direction, I didn't, I went this way, whether it was in a relationship or a business decision or whatever. As an entrepreneur or entrepreneur wannabe, you know, some of the speakers this morning said, go for it. I would totally agree with you. Go for it. Why? Well, here's the alternative. Do you want to come to the end of your life? Or maybe it's a year from now, and you had this brilliant idea, common sense, right? Oh, but nah, I'm not an expert. I don't even know how to go about doing that, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know how to build a software company. I had no experience in that, okay? But I applied my understanding of relationships to say, well, if I could recombine something, you know, a paper system, organizers, relationships on this thing called a PC, how would I do that? Okay, that's kind of the mindset that we went through. But you don't want to come to it and say, a year from now, it's announced on the market, my gosh, I thought of that, I can't believe I didn't do it, somebody else has done it. You know, one of the funny, how many people in the room have cats? Cats, a kitten, cat. I mean, okay, so I don't know if you do, I don't have cats. My kids, some of my kids have cats, but remember the commercial a long time ago of the kitty litter? You know, you got, and it's kind of a, I don't know what to call it, but it's kind of a slider, so it's much more convenient and easy to clean out the litter box every day, right? What a practical application, and I'll bet it was thought of by a person who has cats. And they were looking for something that just made their life easier rather than scooping out the stuff every day and having to do that. So it was just a more practical, convenient way to do it. That person took a chance and invented something. That's what I'm saying. Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, what might have been. So I say that to you entrepreneurs, entrepreneur wannabes, but I'm saying it to you all who aren't in that group because it applies to relationships. If you're going to build more effective relationships, What could have been if I did something different, if I felt a different way, if I serviced them a different way, if I had only done. I mean, that whole cornucopia, if you will, of your attitude and the way you see the value of relationships. It's one of the commercials I most love and get a kick out of, but it touches, again, because I am a relationship-centric guy, and my career has been built around it, things like this touch my heart and even make me cry. I have a soft heart. My kids give me, make fun of me all the time, but I'll get tears strolling down my eyes. It's something that seems like, what happened with you? I mean, come on, it was a funny thing. It makes me, tear up. And it was this, the MasterCard commercials, right? They have these things called priceless. We've all heard them, right? The one that really touched my heart the first time I heard it was the three guys golfing. Anybody remember this? And the golf ball is in the middle of the creek, and half the ball is above the water, right? Then the guy's looking down, and his two buddies are standing there like this. And, the guy over the ball is having to make a decision, do I hit it from the stream or not? Well, if you're a golfer, that's a penalty shot if you have to pick it up out of the water, right? I'd rather save the stroke. I think I can hit it out of the water. So he swings, and the camera's on him, and there's mud all over the side of his face. And all of a sudden it pans over, and his two buddies are hysterically laughing. And then the camera slowly pans on, shirt, whatever, $39, pants, $52. And then it comes down, and there's the ball still in the water. And it goes back to the two buddies, and they're hysterically laughing because of, what this is their friend. And it says, a day out golfing with your buddies, priceless. Oh, my gosh. It takes two to tango, granted. However, what is your goal in how far can you take a relationship? How far do you try to take your relationships in business? I try to take them as my goal to a priceless level. Now, that's open to interpretation. I understand that, and it does depend on the other person. I understand that, but it's still my goal. An easier way to maybe say what one of my goals is after I meet somebody the very first time, well, first of all, I like to get people to smile within 30 seconds, a minute, because it's contagious. Just smiling and laughing. If I don't carry jokes very well. I tell jokes, but I don't carry them very well. So I don't try with that because I'm not comfortable doing it, but I can make fun of myself, or I can make fun of something that was in the newspaper today, or, whatever. Maybe I saw the person trip and I say, whatever. I try to get them relaxed instantly and smiling because that's it's dopamine. It is. And people like to be around people who make them smile and laugh. These are not insignificantly done things on my part. These are natural to me now, even though I still have to work at them. Right? So that's the first one. 1 minute, get them to smile or laugh. But when I leave, I'm hoping that I've done my relationship management sufficient enough, more than sufficient enough, but sufficient enough where they say, if there is an opportunity to continue to work with Mike, I would like to because I like the guy. And many of those types of things that started out that way today are true, genuine friendships with people in the whole world. I lived in London for 4 years. I've traveled all over the world. I have friends all over the world. And so I enjoy people of all cultures that say, I like this guy, and I want to keep in touch with him, right? So that's how I view relationships. Matter of fact, the vision statement of my company, VIPorbit, is this. We believe in the infinite potential of closer relationships. The infinite potential. But it's up to you to take it there, right? I wish I could sit back and kick my feet up on the table and the phone would just ring and you all would just say, I want your product or whatever it is you sell or do, right? Don't we all wish that that's how our business was? Of course, but it doesn't happen like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. I have to do the dance. I have to earn the privilege of getting your business and keeping your business. All right. Any questions, comments on this? Anybody want to make a comment on this? All right. So, social media. I use social media. My company uses social media. This is Scott Adams Dilbert, right? I can't believe there's no audible laughter with this comic. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, how true. I mean, yeah, I have a lot of frienditudes in the world. Do I really have 5,000 friends? Am I really capable of having 5,000 friends? Are you? Come on. Come on. The whole concept and definition of friends is distorted. I would say it's even prostituted, bastardized. Let's use some powerful language here. It is corrupted in today's world. I don't know. Our younger generation, and there's some of you in the room here that are in that generation. I'm a baby boomer. Yeah. But there's much to learn from the younger generation, as much as there is to teach them as well. We always learn, right? But the point is, can you really have 5,000 friends? Really? I had one of the, how many of you know the name Robert Scoble? Do you know who Robert Scoble is? Well, maybe it's helpful that you don't, because I'm going to tell you something about him. I don't think he would mind. In the high-tech world, I go out to Silicon Valley a lot, being in the software industry, blah, blah, blah. Have to pay my dues and, honor, bow down to people out in Silicon Valley. I'm much happier being a Midwesterner. Robert Scoble is a key, very influential personality in the high-tech industry. I mean, he literally hangs out with Mark Zuckerberg, and he knew Steve Jobs. I mean, he's been around a long time, and he's got like 200,000 followers on Twitter, and he maxes out on friends on Facebook, etc. If Robert Scoble says something about your product, it's like the papal blessing. Oh my gosh, Scoble likes it because of all the people that follow him. And if Scoble said this, then I'm doing. He's like the Roger Ebert, being here in Chicago, of critics for technology products. Okay, so I've been to his home 4 times. He's videotaped me, which is what he does if he likes what you're doing. He invited me to stay for dinner one night after the first time I was at his house. He lives in Half Moon Bay, right by the water, really pretty. We had a bottle of wine. Actually, we had 2 bottles of wine. We got very comfortable talking. But we got to this discussion on social media, and I said, so Robert, how many friends do you have on Facebook? He said, I'm maxed out, 5,000. I said, Robert, how many are really your friends? And this is what he said. I'm not making this up. I would have put it differently, but this is what he said. You mean how many people would come to my funeral? I might have said, well, come to my birthday party, but he said funeral. Okay, fine. I said, well, okay, yeah, your funeral. He said 2. Now, maybe he meant 20, whatever, but he said 2. 5,002. What's wrong with this picture? It's a distortion. It's an illusion, right? Matter of fact, I was sharing with Joy and Nate and some other people, it's like, it's relational voyeurism is what it typically is. Now, I use it in my business. Don't get me wrong, and I know one of the questions in the earlier session was, how can we apply it to my business? Well, I want people to like the VIPorbit Facebook page, because then when we put out something, a tweet or what, that we've attached to it, it goes out to the people that are attached to them, right? So it's about awareness. It's about creating awareness. So this whole internet expansion, integration, penetration, and success, it comes from products like this. So I'm not dissing it. Do not interpret what I'm saying in a negative way. I'm just saying it's imbalanced. And it's especially imbalanced when it comes to personal relationships. Because, let me ask, I'm going to stop here. Let me ask this question of you in the audience. How many of you here can say that virtually all of your business is the result of your social media, tweeting, and putting stuff on Facebook? Raise your hand if most of your business comes from doing that. Very interesting, isn't it? Yet it's like this herd mentality that 900 million people are on it, and man, we got to do that. That's true, and I'm going to use it the way it's meant to be used, but think of it as this huge funnel. At the very top of the funnel is all the social media stuff. Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, Yelp, blah, blah, blah. But you all just admitted to yourselves, and me too, that your business doesn't come from up here. Your business comes from what comes out at the bottom of the funnel, where you've distilled and extracted those people, however you qualified that process, to begin the process of creating personal relationships. Meaningful business comes from meaningful relationships, and that's the area of the funnel that my career has been focused on with the software tools I've built to help you do a better job of focusing on that element of the funnel so that you can be more successful. Okay? You can tell I have certain feelings about all this stuff. All right. Just another, you know, I get subscriptions, obviously, to the high-tech stuff, and this is Spencer the cat. He's always cynical, but it's so true, right? Those of us who are baby boomers, for going back to baby boomers, we remember when networking was, you'd go actually have a beer with somebody at a tavern. Wow, what a concept. Now, like one of the other speakers, you know, highlighted, go look at this young couple at what could be a romantic dinner, and they're both sitting there doing this. I don't care where you go in today's world, including here, because that's the way we've all fallen in the trap, including me, right? We can't live without this thing. But this thing is eroding personal relationships if we let it, and we can't let it, okay? The good thing about it, though, if I want to present it this way, is that if the pendulum has swung to everybody's doing social media and everybody's doing this on their devices, it doesn't take much for me to come over here and just look you in the eye and shake your hand and say, "Hi, I'm Mike." Whether it's even a video conference on Skype. I do a lot of first-time and even only relationship development through video conferencing today all over the world. I still try to make them laugh in 30 seconds or a minute, blah, blah, blah. I still have the same goals. And so I use technology to my benefit to extend my own reach, but I don't violate or abandon the principles that I've learned to live by and succeed by, okay? And that's what life is like today for many of us. And that ain't going to do you any good in developing a stronger, more successful business. Any disagreement with that? I'm not afraid of disagreement. I've been confronted by different opinions often, but yeah, please. What do you mean I mean social media is limiting it? What are you addressing as the it? No, I agree with that. Right, when there were 3 people, there was networking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so social networking has been around for years. Forever, actually. And excuse me for not getting up, folks. At any rate, I would say that social media is another tool you can use for enhancing your relationships.
Totally agree.
It's not a singular tool.
Right, but not at the expense of not doing the other things, because it's just it's a component along a wider and more opportunistic journey today from which I can gather people.
Yes.
But I still have to bring them close to me, close to my heart. I have to touch their heart, right? I mean, that's still, do you agree with that?
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
We're in agreement.
We're on the same page.
No, we're in agreement, but very good for your comment. All right, so let's proceed. I said earlier at the beginning, everybody sells. I can't stress this enough. And a matter of fact, I would say if there's 2 or 3 things I want you to leave with today in my message, it's that everybody sells. You are a salesperson first and foremost, and you always will be. Now, how many people in the room are is the traditional salesperson? Okay. It looks like maybe a third, maybe approaching a half, but a third. How many of you shudder at the thought of saying you're a salesperson? Okay, a handful. How many, be honest with me please, how many people feel it's beneath them to even say that they are a salesperson? I know a lot of people that are like that, so I can't believe that not even one person, I'll bet there is at least one, but that's okay, you can stay hidden.
Mike,
but,
I hate to sell.
Yeah.
I hate selling. It's not my thing. I will admit that all day.
Yeah, selling is tough, but it is the epitome of the art of creating relationships and providing mutual value. You get something by giving something, right? But I'm not going to get unless I give. I've got to give value. If I do, hopefully I get something in return. All right. I tell people Einstein, for example, was a sales guy. What he did was physics. That's what he loved. That's what he was brilliant at. But what he was a salesperson. Why? Well, let's go back to when he wasn't what we know him to have turned out to become. Brilliant physicist. He was at Princeton. He had to compete with the federal government for grants to do research at Princeton as opposed to all the other brilliant physicists who wanted their money for Harvard and Yale and wherever, right? At one point, he came up with his theorems and ideas and sat around the table with other brilliant physicists, and I'll bet there were some lively, heated debates and discussions on his theories. He was in the process of persuasion, opinion sharing, right? He was always selling. What he did was physics. So you may be a CPA, you may do accounting, but what you are is a salesperson. Why is that so important to grasp? Because it heightens your sensitivities to the fact that people have selected you over a competitor, and you have competitors. Every one of you. I do. We all do. There's two things that are profound agents of change in the world that make us change whether we want to or not. The customer, the damn customer, they're never satisfied, right? They're always complaining. Let me go here. Okay. They're always complaining. Can you show my slide? Are my slides not appearing on the, oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. The other one is competition. So the two C's, customer and competition, will make you change whether you want to or not. And there's also a saying, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you stand still. You cannot afford to get complacent when it comes to relationships. Ever. Okay? Anybody feel differently? Yes? No? All right. Your livelihood is going to depend on the improvement of this, your attitude first, your understanding of it second, your commitment towards it third, and then fourth and fifth and whatever you do about it to employ the things you employ to make that happen, to execute all of those initial criteria and characteristics. All right. So, what is the weakest link in your company? If you're your own person, you're your own company, what is your weakest link that could make your company succeed or fail? I would argue it's the strength or lack of, the quality of your relationships. There's a saying, we don't know the worth of water until the well is dry, right? If you don't think a customer is important, try doing without them for 90 days. I'm taking off for 90 days. I'm going to go scuba diving. Everything will be okay. Wrong, right? It's constant attention. It's constant focus. It's constant purpose. It's constant care. And all of that, keeps you at that differentiated level, you separated from your competition. We all start, think of it as a race. Business is a contact sport, right? It is. We all start the race at the beginning line, me and all my competitors, and we all take these little steps, right? It's over a period of time that one begins to outdistance themselves, but you still have to maintain that distance. You aren't finally there. There is no end to the game of business. You could say, well, there's bankruptcy. Okay, but that's what I'm talking about. There's no end. You're going to be in business until you decide to retire. That's kind of the backdrop of what I mean. So it never ends, right? So you have to maintain that effort. If you don't think that what I'm saying is true, that everybody sells, and you must understand that everybody sells, I thought this was an obvious reminder of the consequences of a complacent, lackadaisical attitude about your responsibility personally to embrace a sales mentality and understanding of people. Now, it shouldn't be that hard. We all encounter salespeople each and every day of various. I'm not talking about, the Home Depot help me find a box of nails because I don't know which aisle to go to. Although that's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not diminishing that. I'm talking about more of the type of businesses that you probably are in. I'm a fitness trainer. I'm a life coach. I'm a consultant for IT. Those are the types of jobs where you want to build an annuity. And it's not just creating value and delivering value to the people you do, you want to do it in such a superlative, unique, professional fashion that they then invite you into what I call their orbits, right? Hey, I like Mike so much, and I've got some other people. He's taking such good care of me. I'm going to tell all my buddies that if they have need for this, they ought to contact Mike. That referral is it's priceless, right? It's priceless. Who doesn't want that in their business? Anybody willing to raise their hand? Oh, okay. Common sense. The opportunity for people who understand this is that most people don't apply common sense. Isn't it amazing in today's world of CRM products and the fact that I could tweet something despicable about you or your business that fast, right? Which it creates another layer of opportunity and challenge and why relationships have to be carefully treated and developed. Means that I just have to be more sensitive to this and do a better job of it because of the risk factors that have increased, okay, for the loss of my business. So a referral means a lot, and I need to do everything I can to develop it. All right. Here's just another. I told you I like pictures. They kind of, help me remember. Oh yeah, I could do everything right, but I didn't do the one thing right, and it was that one thing that I lost the deal because of, or I won the deal because of. I would say, going back to my personal example of the IBM, big company CEO, because of that skiing vacation, that was the thing that, in my case, connected it. So if my competitors had come that far in doing everything else right, by forgetting that one thing, there was a disconnect in that person's mind toward them. Hey, I'll love that, but I don't want to risk it for me. Is there anybody here, we're all human, anybody here that hasn't made a mistake relationally, that you did everything right, but one thing was wrong, whatever, and you lost a relationship, personally or in business because of it? We've all experienced that. Hey, it still happens to me too. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to minimize, mitigate those things that do cause that. That's all I'm trying to say is, this is not an ideal world. I'm not an ideologue on, the perfect world. But I don't like risk that's unnecessary and that is manageable and that I can treat differently so that it's managed better. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so why is all that important? I love this picture when I first saw it because it just kind of reminded me of the reality of business every day. If you don't think that your customers or your prospects of whatever you do somebody else isn't trying to steal them from you or get closer to them than you are naive. Okay? Don't be naive, because that's how close you got to stay, but that's how close you are to losing them as well. Now, I know this is an old picture, and so how many millennials and younger generations are in the room? Kind of just clap your hand. I want to hear a sense of, okay, so there's a few. All right, so you're probably going, oh, that's old-fashioned. Well, I have today's version just for you. Okay? That's what it looks like today. All right? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, and nothing will change when it comes to relationship management. All right? So I'm gonna stop there and open it up to questions of anything you want to know. If you want to know about software, you want to know about whatever I said something I said, that's fine. I'll tell you anything you want as long as it won't get me in trouble with the law. Anybody? Anything?
Come on, Mike is really, from a business perspective, from a CRM perspective, if you had app questions specifically, I know he's going to go over that in his breakout session, but now is a perfect time. I mean, this gentleman charges thousands of dollars an hour for consulting. I mean, you're in rare company here, so please.
And my question is regarding the nurturing the customer relationship. And I can't agree more that the customer relationship is the most important part of any business. But as information marketers, most of our business happens around the country and sometimes around the world. I learned my customer relationship as being a waiter back in college, and I'm still looking for the bridge. The challenge for me is to apply the principles I learned with the face-to-face sales as a waiter, and apply those to my clients and my prospects all around the country and all around the world. What is the best way? So my question is, what is the best way to transfer that personal face-to-face relationship to clients that are, say, 3,000 miles away?
That you've never met before and are unlikely to meet, or that you did physically meet one time and now are thousands of miles away?
That you've never met before. So let's say a prospect list. You know, common way, and the way I do it most is with weekly videos, things like that. I know webinars and like live webinars are probably very common, or live coaching calls. What's the best way to mimic? You can never mimic a personal in-person relationship. What's the best way to grow it, or to work towards that?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, and there is no silver bullet. If I had the perfect answer to that question, I probably would own an island in the Mediterranean, okay? Because we have all become hardened to email today. I mean, I delete email faster than I even read what it's about. It's like, where's the unsubscribe? How come these people keep finding me? I just don't care. I don't answer if you leave me a voicemail on a business line, I don't answer it. I don't answer voicemail on my home phone anymore. I mean, I've made it harder, and I'm going to presume you've done the same thing. True? Has anybody found it easier to get through to people than the old days? No, it's harder. So I struggle with the same things you do. So that's where, I could go back and on the internet and things you're learning from the other speakers. How do we employ the means of the Facebooks and the LinkedIns, et cetera, the world, Twitter, to promote my business and create awareness so that people come back, and I create this cycle? We will all continue to seek for answers to that question. I'm giving you a long answer because I don't have the answer. But here's what I do, okay? I still employ those same principles of distinguishing myself. So I do it in little ways. If any of you ever get an email from me, for example, I guarantee you, whether I've met you one time or never or a lot, I'll always say, hi, Steve, hope you are well. Hope you're well. That's not, didn't get right down to business. I don't know what you're good at, don't know about your life, but I hope you're well. Okay? Blah, blah, blah. And then my signature is always, take care, Mike. Take care. Right? Just take care. It's just that good, human feel. It's all I'm trying to do in the microcosm of an email. For example, in Twitter, I do try to present. I have a personal Twitter. I don't really like Twitter. I will admit that, but that's okay. I still have to use it. I'm one of those people just like you. I better change, or I'm going to get run over on that track if I stand still, right? But the company has a Twitter account too. And the purpose for it is to present my personality. As funny as that sounds, the way I try to do it is to present a personality, because we look at things out there in the world very clinically. We look at it from a price comparison standpoint or whatever. That's all clinical. How do I personalize it? And part of the way I personalize is with my personality and what I'm comfortable with portraying that personality. So I'll give you an example. True story. I landed at O'Hare Airport yesterday, whatever time it was, 3:30. And first time in my life ever, a dead soldier was being transported back home. And before we all got on the plane in Dallas, the gate agent said, sergeant or whatever the soldier's name was, and there were some military, men standing here at attention, and they asked us to bow our head, moment of silence. I mean, I don't know about you. I didn't have to serve in the military. I did have relatives that did. These people volunteer today for their life, to give their life. Volunteer. In my era, when I was in college, it was the lottery and you were drafted. You had to go unless you went to Canada, right? These people volunteer their lives. Oh my gosh. Okay? So I'm on the plane with this dead soldier. All right, we fly up here, we land. I've never experienced a plane trip where when we land, I don't know how many people, 100 policemen, firemen, the airport workers standing in attention, and the fire trucks were blowing the water on the plane. And I had a window seat on the side looking at them. I wasn't on the other side. And let me tell you, the sense of that experience so touched my heart. I took a picture of it. I took 3 pictures, actually, and I tweeted them. just to portray. I did do it to honor the soldier, to the people out there that are interested in having a positive, responsible view of our military, whether you agree with war or not. They gave their life voluntarily. They are owed some respect. I presented that, okay? I take that for the soldier, not for me. I didn't do anything. But it did portray, and it was something I wanted to express as an individual out there. So to answer your question, as funny as that may sound, I try to employ who I am in the best light possible, that makes people feel good, that inspires them, and if I get some business from it, well, great. What's the alternative? What's the alternative? You gotta put a step forward, and you just gotta dig into it and start a journey. And so that's what I do.
Mike, if I may, I'm back here. How are you?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm the voice of God, just sneaking in on Mike when he's least expecting it, right?
Yeah.
I think what I get from Mike more than anything else, and I was just been fortunate enough to spend some time with Mike, and what he really puts forth, and I'm sure you're getting this from the presentation, but customers, write this down, customers reward effort. And really, it's so simple. Email rates. Anybody have a guess right now in terms of what the open rates are for email? Call them out. 1.5%. Okay. They're slightly higher than that. To the best of my knowledge, the latest stats I've seen run anywhere between 8 and 11 depending, but it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. You know what has the single highest open rate out of any single medium in this day and age? Say it again. What else? No. What else? Okay, someone's close. An envelope. What is in that envelope? Say it again. A handwritten letter. You know why? Because no one does it. When's the last time you took the time and effort to write a customer a handwritten note of thanks? You know what you did? You did a send-out card. Or maybe you went and you did a bulk email, happy holidays, ooh, whoop-de-doo, right? And you took them to a link and there was this big happy song with fireworks about, how the bears were dancing around the Christmas tree. Great. Customers reward effort. And that's ultimately in 3 words. Sorry, Mike, I just summarized your presentation in 3 words.
No, that's okay. You're doing fine.
But Lynn, please go to the microphone if you have a question. Hold on, we got one here.
Hi, I just was recently advised not to put an email address on my website because of spammers and spiders, so I just wanted to find out what you thought about taking off your email address on your website and just having a phone number with a contact page.
No, it's a good question. And again, I'll just tell you what I do, the choice that I made personally. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a startup company. VIPorbit's been on the market now for a little over a year, and we just came out with the iPad version, and we've done well, and more stuff coming out, Windows version later in the year, and a Mac desktop version, and we're going to tie them all together, and blah, blah, blah. So to me, I'm trying to build my business and my team, right? So I put my email, if you saw the front page of the presentation, I had my mike@viporbit.com. I put that out there. We send newsletters to our customers. I write a little paragraph, and I encourage people, contact me. Here's where you can get in touch with me. Let me know you'd like to talk. And I do get responses, and then I'll get a LinkedIn. Hey, I'd like to connect you on LinkedIn, blah, 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 which is kind of a funny story, too. Maybe I'll comment on it in my brief time left, because you probably are the same. But I want people to feel they have access to me is the key to the answer to your question. Because the alternative is to not let them have access. And if I don't at least try on my part to facilitate that, I'm definitely not going to make that connection. And relationships are about connections. Would I give out my personal phone number, broadcast it? No. Heck no. I don't want to do that, obviously, for the obvious reason. But my email, heck yeah. I can shut that off in a heartbeat. And you know what? If I need to, I'll change it if it gets to be too much, spam over time.
So you're saying it doesn't increase spam by putting your email address?
Oh, no. I mean, yes, I'd have a little bit more, but okay, the microsecond to delete, or unsubscribe, what I get in return from people who genuinely now found a way to reach me, and people are stunned. I mean, I'm a business person like you. I'm just trying to make my way, right, in the world with people I'm trying to connect to. So I get a report from Apple every week on the downloads of VIPorbit, and you have to, like most products, you have to put in your email address, because if we have to send you something, we don't do anything with it. But most people have a Yahoo or Gmail address, so I have no idea what they do. But some people put their business email address as the extension, so I know, well, it's a contractor or a chiropractor or a dentist or, whatever, CPA. I literally go to their website. I personally do this every week, every Monday when I get the report. I go look at the web. I compile the list of people who identify what company they work for. I go to their websites. Oh, wow, we've got customers that work for that kind of company. That's good to know. We have a bunch of pastors, photographers, chiropractors, people that I would have never guessed are downloading VIPorbit to use personally, right? I write them an email. I go to their website, because a lot of people have a contact me, and they say, hey, I'm Mike Muhney. I'm the CEO of VIPorbit. Thanks for downloading my product. I'm here to answer any questions if you would like. And I offer people to be in touch with me, and people call me back or write me, because I'll tell, here's my phone number, right? Those people I'll tell, they're a customer, and they'll call me and say, I'm stunned that the CEO of the company contacted me. Oh my gosh, right? I'm just a regular person, but to them it was like a cool thing. Well, do you think I did that unthinkingly? No, I did it purposefully. It's up to them to respond, but that's what I'm getting back to. I try to extend and portray my personality, and by doing such, I differentiate myself. How many app developers, CEOs have you ever talked to in your life? And I'll bet you have apps on your phones. How many CEOs have you talked to of an app company? 0.
I still have yet to get that email from Angry Birds. My kids have Angry Birds Space,
yeah.
Angry Birds Rio.
Right.
Making rocks. All right, we got a couple minutes left. One more question, please.
Yeah.
Mike, CIA was part of that welcoming for the veteran chaplains in action. So we're planning on doing some more of that. My question is, how do you manage product and customers?
How do I manage the product and customers?
Right, for anyone. It seems like the app program is going to come on Sunday, but today you talked about customers. Is that the priority that you put?
Yeah, I would say if there's, I could argue that, marketing is the most important element of a company and blah, blah. Okay, they all are important. But one of them that is the touch point, the real person-to-person touch point from any company is your customer support department. My customer support people, they used to be with me at ACT, by the way, so they have the DNA, right? They know, they have the same vision, the same understanding of the principles, and they just like people, right? But customer support, in my opinion, is what differentiates me and what it will always differentiate me from competition, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Great. Always. And so, however you have to employ customer support in your company, that is one of the most personal relationship touch points you have. You better shine there all the time, even with disgruntled employees, et cetera, and there's always that kind, right? We've all been one ourselves, I'm sure. I have been, I admit it, right? Hard to please, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you can win me over based on how you treat me, with at least respect, maybe not the answer I want, but with respect and courtesy, and you at least contacted me back and you listened to me griping, right? That says a lot, and that's what we do. Customer support is king in my company.
Absolutely, and as we said, and as Mike said, Mike will actually be leading a breakout session at 4:20 on Sunday, and if you do want to get into more specifics insofar as app development is concerned, see, Mike, he did this on the fly. I mean, really, he was going around making himself accessible. He spoke to a number of attendees, and it seemed like rather than getting into the nuts and bolts, some people had more questions about the CRM side, and so he adjusted that. If you're disappointed, you wanted to hear the apps, make sure you see Mike at the breakout session. So big round of applause for Mike Muhney.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. Really do appreciate you being here. And again, few pieces of software I mean, Windows? I mean, how many pieces of software have had that sort of lifespan, right? I mean, I know there are a few, Peachtree, but even I mean, really? You go back 20 years, right?
25.
25 years. I mean, it's just unreal. Absolutely unreal. So it's interesting because obviously we're talking about the internet. I mean, this is internet profits. And hopefully you came here with the understanding that not only would we be talking about internet, but we'd be talking about mobile, which we will be. And Riel spoke about it a little bit this morning. We'd be talking about marketing in general. But ultimately, you know, as I said earlier, the internet is a big, vast space of nothing. I mean, really, whatever is created is what it becomes. That's the beauty of it. And there is nothing more important than developing those relationships. Let me ask you a question. How many of you either received an email or spoke to me or Amanda or Lori personally? Show of hands. Okay? That's what we strive for. This could have just been another conference. I didn't want to have another conference. I wanted to have a party. All right? I wanted to have a party. I wanted to invite my friends. So I got my friends. And I've got lots of friends who are coming to speak on the stage, and that's the idea. But the bottom line is that I wanted to make sure that your experience is such that when you leave here, you will be like, seriously, you didn't go? What were you thinking? This is an event that you have to be at. I mean, look at the facility. I mean, we could have done this at any shithole, right? I mean, let's be real. But we went the extra mile and put it at a facility that you guys could walk into and be like, I'm happy to spend 3 or 4 days here. I mean, but that's the idea. VIPs, who had the food? How was the food? Yeah, right? Salmon, chicken, desserts that were outstanding. Not that I need them. But, I mean, really, it's trying to go that extra mile. And for Mike to send an email or to pick up the phone and call someone who downloaded that app, that's how you build a business. And that's how you build a piece of software that sticks around for 25 years. It just doesn't happen. So again, another big hand for Mike Muhney.
All right. Actually, I'm here through the weekend. There is a book, just so you know, back there that I've co-authored as well called Who's in Your Orbit Beyond Facebook, Creating Relationships That Matter. So anyway, it's back there, and I'm around for anybody that would like to talk with me further. So thank you.
So Mike will be at the back of the room for